right, we on the corner of Dowling and Prospect. This is the 5300 block of Dowling before it deads in right up there at Calumet. This is as far as Dowling go today. That soon will be called Emancipation Boulevard. But right now, you still see the sign, 5300 block of Dowling and Prospect. The next corner would be Calumet, and the next one would be Benz, and the next one would be Ewan, and then that's when Dowling used to dead in at a street called Riverside. Everybody, we on Dowling Street, the famous Dowling Street that they have now changed over to Emancipation Boulevard. Right here is the 5600 block of Dowling. And as you can see, Dowling Street started from Congress downtown, where we will go eventually, but it ended up right here on Dowling and Riverside. But they had to block it off here on Calumet. Dowling Street was blocked off on Calumet, right here past Prospect, in order to make room for 288, which is over there. Now we finna go down Dowling Street, because Dowling is a very important part of our black history, and now it's finna be gone. 30, 40, 50 years from now, only way somebody gonna know about Dowling unless they Google it up, because the street has now been changed, Emancipation. All right, let's go riding down Dowling Street. We're right now on the corner of Dowling and Prospect as we go rolling down Dowling Street. We're crossing Prospect, we're heading towards Oakdale. Let's go down the famous street, that only street that runs from downtown through 3rd Ward was Dowling, and now the name will be changed to Emancipation. All of this area back in the early 50s was part of the Jewish neighborhood, past Sophomore. Right now we're getting ready to pass Sophomore Street, going down Dowling Street. As we head straight down Dowling Street, crossing Dowling Street, all this was white neighborhood in the early 50s, and blacks started moving over here in the late 60s. Okay, we're crossing Wichita, we're crossing a street they call Rosedale, we're heading on down. All this was once white neighborhood until the 60s. As we cross Arbor Street, we're heading towards Blodgett. Welcome to Dowling Street, the famous Dowling Street of black history here in 3rd Ward. Okay, right down here is Blodgett and Dowling, which over there in the corner over there off of Blodgett and Dowling was a famous hotel they used to call the Algier Hotel. That's where James Brown, Ray Charles, and all the big time celebrities, when they come to Houston, that's where they would stay at, because they couldn't stay in the white hotel because it was segregated. All this was white neighborhood back in the day, in the 50s. Okay, as we going across the street called Wheeler Street, we on Wheeler and Dowling. All right, as we cross Wheeler and Dowling, this has always been part of white neighborhood until the 60s, when blacks started moving over here. We're going all the way to Alabama. On the other side of Alabama up here would be the black neighborhoods in the 50s, and where blacks stayed at. And the separation line was Alabama. As we cross Cleburne, heading on down Dowling Street. The famous Dowling Street will now be called Emancipation Boulevard. But it plays so much history here in the black community in 3rd Ward. Dowling Street, right here on the corner of Dowling and Alabama, used to have the Lincoln Drive-In, where they would still sell good shrimps and good seafood and good hamburgers back in the day. Okay, as we cross Alabama and Dowling, now this is where blacks were staying at. On this side of Alabama was completely blacks. Okay, we're heading on down Alabama, and we're going on down Alabama. We're passing Winburn, we're passing a street called Berry, and we're heading on down, all the way down here. Now this street is the famous street of Holman and Dowling. Okay, this is one of the famous black part of 3rd Ward, right here on Dowling. Right over there was Franklin Beauty School. As we come all the way on down Dowling Street, as we see Francis, that's the name of the street, Francis right there. And Francis Street ran right into Old Jack Yates, right there on the corner of Francis and Delano, and Francis Street ran right into Jack Yates. Now, as you can see, we're on the corner of Elgin and Dowling. Now you can see they are already getting ready for the change this street to Emancipation Boulevard. Look at, they have redone the Emancipation Park over there. As we keep on going down Dowling Street, famous Dowling Street. Okay, right now we're getting ready, 2700 block of Dowling. I mean, this is the 2900 block of Dowling. I take it back. Okay, now as the famous right there on 2M and Dowling used to be the Park Theater. As we come on down here, and we all knew back in the day what was on Drew, that was the alley where they sold liquor after hours, and there's Wolf Department Store. And then as we keep on going down Dowling, we coming on down here to Dowling and McGowan. And all of this is part of Third Ward Black history. As we go on down McGowan, crossing McGowan on Dowling Street, now we're heading up towards Gray Street in Dowling. Okay, now it used to be a famous Air 4 motel used to be here. Over here on this other side was the Senate Grill. And then down here, back up here on this corner called Hatley and Dowling, used to be a place called the Red Lily Q. And eventually Joe Reese turned it into the Glass House. That was a famous spot on Dowling Street. And we all know about Wesley Chapel over there. Wesley Chapel will always be famous. And as we go down Dowling Street, there in the corner of the shoe shop, there was the Dowling Theater. Right there, that empty lot, right there was the Dowling Theater. As we keep on going down Dowling here, as we remembered, Mr. Trimmer said about 45, how many neighborhoods and how many black communities was knocked out of existence when they started in 1948, building that right there is where they started building 45, heading towards Galveston, right here on the corner. Now, as we cross Pierce, which they renamed that street St. Joseph Park Avenue. We know what happened to St. Joseph Hospital. Those was the sisters. St. Joseph Hospital donated the money to change that school. That street. Now here's Jefferson. This was the first part of the beginning of Highway 45 that led right into Galveston in 1948. This is where they started, right here at this spot where we at today. The 2300 block of Jefferson was the beginning of I-45. And as we passed by, and when you was coming from Galveston off of I-45, which used to be called Highway 75, used to be called, when they first opened it up, Superhighway. When you was coming back from Galveston off the Superhighway, you exit off a street called Pierce. And as we go down here, down Dowling, all of this was black neighborhoods. Blacks stayed all up and down in this neighborhood where we driving up and down Dowling Street. That's no longer Dowling Street. Okay, as we go down, we on the corner of Leland. All back off in Leland and Dowling was black neighborhoods. As we go down, straight down Dowling Street, because we going all the way to the end. Okay, right there on Bell was a lot of blacks that stayed in that neighborhood. Okay, right here is the famous Polk Street. This is famous, this building, and I will do the video, is the beginning of the Houston Post, the Hobby, the first newspaper here in the city of Houston, the Houston Post. The Chronicle didn't come in until 60 years later. The Houston Post was the first paper that Houston got in the 1800s, and in 1925, the Hobby family bought the Houston Post, and they moved it right here at this building. As we go down, now as we go down Dowling Street, black folks lived all back off in this area. Lamar, black folks lived all off of back in this corner of Lamar and Dowling. As we continue going down Dowling Street, we went to the end of Dowling, we heading towards the beginning of Dowling. And as you can see, this is Dowling Street. This is black stayed, a lot of black stayed off of McKinney and Dowling, because they used to go to Tom Cato Fish Market and buy fish off of there, back in that, off of McGowan. Now, this is also part of black history. Black stayed off of Walker and Dowling. And as you can see, they built the Dynamo Stadium right here on Dowling, which now won't be called Dowling. It will be called the Emancipation Boulevard, where the new Dynamo Stadium is. Okay, now we keep it on down. Dowling. Okay, now we come to Texas. Okay, now Texas Street was like the end of Third Ward, because now when you turn right on Texas, you're going towards Harrisburg. And if you turn left, you're going back to the other part of the shopping area of downtown. But when you come out of downtown area, and you're coming down Dowling, when you want to go to Harrisburg, you come down Dowling, and there you see Harrisburg right there on the corner, and you turn right there on Harrisburg, and that'll lead you straight on into the ship channel. All right, now we're going straight on down Dowling Street. We're passing Harrisburg. Now remember, we still on Dowling now. Now this still Dowling Street. Dowling and Perry. All of this was once part of black neighborhood. Okay, now, as you can see, this is Perry and this is Dowling. As we go all the way around. Now, Dowling getting ready to end now. So watch this here. Watch this curve in case you didn't know about Dowling Street. When Dowling comes around this curve, as we go around this curve, we are now entering the street called Congress. We are on Congress now, which is now, as you can see. Now we on one of the oldest part of Dowling that a lot of black people and people never knew about. Dowling and Pope. Check it out. They ain't changed this sign. This is on the corner where the Houston Post used to be. Houston's first newspaper here in the city of Houston. It was not the Houston Chronicle. This is the building that the Hobby family built. When the Houston Post opened up, I'm gonna give you an interview right here at this historical building. They have tore down the Chronicle, but I'll be god doggone if they're gonna tear this down. The Hobby family will not let them tear this building down until they say it's time to tear it down.
Now this is a bit of Houston history. Then back during those years when the Park Theater, we only had 3 black policemen in the whole of Houston.
Okay.
That was Henry Breed, Pete Clay, and another policeman who later got.
Now, let's go, first of all, Mr. Trimmer, you know, they changed the name of Dowling Street to Emancipation Park. And it's so much black history.
Is that the name? And that's the new name, Emancipation Boulevard, which is?
Emancipation Park Boulevard.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Okay. Now, during the time in the 40s, I know because they had I took something off of the internet that showed in 1940, that's when Lightning Hopkins came to Houston and he played his music on Dowling Street. And they had it showing that he went from Dowling Street to Carnegie Hall and took the blues all over the country. That's what started B.B. King and a lot of other people into the blues. And now, but I don't want to go and drill on what Lightning did. I want to drill on all the good memories that Dowling had for the black community. First of all, Dowling Street, really, you said Dowling started way back on the other end of downtown, right, which was Congress.
Congress dead end used to come in east. Congress used to end at Dowling and it curved on into Dowling and come on south. I think it's still that way.
Yeah, it's still that way. Okay. Now you come on through down.